Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to recreate the Sci-Fi engine which I showed in one of my YouTube shorts. So let's begin by creating the base mesh, and we'll start with a cylinder. I'm going to use 64 vertices, and that will give me ample geometry for the randomization, and of course having a more circular or finer curve than using a 36 vertex or vertices cylinder. Okay. Auto mirror, and you can see the 3D widget here. The front is the negative Y in Blender, and I guess this is the right side, which is our left, and this is the left side, which is our right. Okay, so I'm going to use this side here. Pick this side to be the real geometry for the auto mirror. Click and press XYZ for the axis to turn them on. They colorize when they turn on, and click space to confirm. Now this is our real geometry, and in the modifiers tab you can click this toggle to basically show everything and hide the effect of the mirror. If you disable this, then you can see the real geometry and the virtual geometry, which is provided by the mirror modifier. Okay, so the top of the, I'm going to bevel it, and then create the part where the most of the gribble are located, or gribbles are located. So since this is using randomization, we're going to use the random flow to create gribbles that will actually, of course, give us a convincing result, and make it look like it's not just a bunch of gribbled design. So I undid that because once you have confirmed the inset, you cannot scale this properly anymore using the mirror modifier. So if I confirm the inset and press S to scale, doesn't scale correctly. But you can snap the 3D cursor here and then press period and use the 3D cursor as the pivot point, then you can uh, basically do that. But it doesn't work on other parts of the mesh because it's using the 3D cursor as the pivot point. So the other way you can do it is by applying the mirror and then reapplying it. So going back to median point as the pivot point, I'm going to apply the mirror, apply mesh, and then select these faces and scale, and then reapply the mirror using auto mirror and using the same side for the real geometry. So just in case you uh, forgot to do that, but to do that while doing the inset. But the quickest way is to just undo. So we apply the when we use the apply mesh, we also applied the auto smooth modifier. So right now I'm going to add additional edge loops to create more faces for the randomization to play with. The randomization is not created out of thin air. The randomization is based on the topology of your model. So for example, this one, which contains only this long thin strips of faces, if we use the randomization here, there is no line that goes perpendicular to this vertical line here because the topology doesn't have that. We have to supply the or add additional edge loops to the area in order to create cuts on those directions. So we have cuts going vertical and then cuts going horizontal because of the topology. So I'm going to add additional edge loops for the other areas of the mesh as well. And I'm going to use the randomization on specific areas of the mesh at a time and not necessarily all of it at the same time. Okay, so I'm going to start with this area. And the pre-select add-on makes it easier to select this, but I haven't released it, so let's use the Alt key again. Click on one face on those flat areas, and then Shift Q. Press Alt, then click on the random operator. Most of the random operators that deals with geometry has this feature. So Alt click on the random panels operator. It selects all those faces. Now presets, I'm just going to use this because this is the most normal preset or the most standard preset that I have here. The other ones are situational. Okay, but first I'm going to turn on even offset and increase the cuts to provide us with more details. So increasing the cuts or the subdivision creates more faces, and relative to the panel size that you have here, the min and max amount, then you have essentially more details. So smaller panel size creates smaller face islands, therefore more details, and bigger panel size means less detail. So what this you can use percentage for this or number. For number, it means that the maximum faces that an island could have right now is for example 44 faces and the minimum is one face. Okay, and we can see it here. Okay, so let's go back, click, click, and click. Can also use it in object mode. I'll click on the random panels operator and let's get this back to the original setting. Turn the event offset on and increase the depth or the extrusion height of the face island. And then there's a breakage on the symmetry line. So I'm going to use the clip center to basically clip those vertices towards the center to avoid ripping it up. So if you don't have clip center, you have a line in the middle that is basically always there, even if you randomize things, because we are using the mirror modifier for symmetry. To get rid of that, we use clip center and then just increase the threshold here or the distance threshold. Okay, and we're just going to adjust the depth some more, or probably use in the video I used random shading. So in order for the random shading feature, basically the limit smooth and the shading properties, you have to use 4.2.3 above of Blender. So I removed the error that is present with the older versions of Blender when it comes to using auto smooth or the sit sharp from angle property in Blender or attribute of the mesh, but it can sometimes create or some of the smooth shading features in the add-on, for example, in random panels, some of the areas may not work with older versions. Okay, so play around with the panel size. So we're basically looking for a pattern that could work with our design in mind, which is in this case a sci-fi cylindrical engine. I think this is good. You know, you have to strike a balance between detail and then relaxed areas. We can probably go something like 50. And so I don't like this one. I'm going to seed this again and look for other shapes. We can just layer the, if you like one of the patterns and it doesn't have the amount of details that you want, you can just layer some more after the operation. For example, here I'll click and there we go. You can just layer on top of the previous result of the randomization to create more details in those areas. Okay, so let's leave this like that for now and go with the actually with this one. I think I just did this for this one. Created a line using Final Cutter using the insets type or method. So mark sharp. So the mark sharp faces will be converted to final detail. Final cut and inset. There we go. Okay, now let's go to the other part of the mesh and this one. So you can select it manually or just select the face and I'll click on the operator to activate the Alt key event. So from this point forward, I'm just gonna use the pre-select add-on. Okay, I will release it in a couple of days when I finish the online documentation. This will be a free support tool for the random flow add-on. And I will release it probably in 0.025 Patreon. You just have to become a free member in order to download it. Something like 25 to get more detail. Okay, I think this will work. I'm just gonna save this file. Okay, so even if it crashes, I can still continue the video. Okay, we still have the source mesh selected and all the faces in there or in the middle selected. So I'm just gonna layer the design. So we have random panels at the start, and then I'm going to add. I think I added random cells or random tubes. Let's see, random tubes and 0.100i offset. And then I'm not gonna use mirror. It's going to avoid using the mirror modifier, so the result is asymmetrical. And then the width is going to be randomized. So 0.02, and then this one is 0.005, and the bevel 0.005. Okay, and the offset is 0.25. So you have to, uh, if you're trying to follow this tutorial, you might have a different result with the values that I'm using. This depends on the scale of the object that you're modeling. So just follow the gist of what I'm showing you. And because we're dealing with randomization, it might be different for you. So you have to watch out for those values. Okay. So the random sizes of the tubes or the pipes is a latest addition to the add-on from the last update. So this just if you don't have it, you can see that it's not that interesting, but with this one, it's kind of interesting because of the variability of these the radius of the pipes. Okay, so I'm going to knock off or disable not use fallback to see what we have. Use fallback creates a more tame result when it comes to the turning of the pipes. It's less chaotic, but it kind of removes some of the pipes in the process. So let's see. Let's experiment with the settings. Longest. Okay. You can even layer the result. You can, of course, for example, 50, 50 now. Look for something that you like. Then, since you have the source mesh selected from the last operation, we can layer another random chips result. Then we're going to use something like longest and base play around with the seed value or the randomization. So I think this is good. If you don't like a certain pipe, you can just go in and delete it. This one L to use the L hat key to select the linked vertices or core points and X V. Okay. Now is we're going to use the flanges. Flanges. Okay, just the basic one. And since the pipes have random sizes or radius, we'll use the dynamic setting. If you don't, if the flanges or couplings disappear when you use the dynamic, it means that they're probably too small for the pipe initially. So just increase the radius until they show up. It's kind of like this sometimes. They're buried under the pipe. So just increase them or just increase their radius to show them. Okay. And we have the depth or the thickness of the flanges, and then we're going to use 2 and select this other pipe result, flanges and couplings, and then click here. So I basically just clicked on one of the Boolean toggles because we already have the settings from the last operation. There we go. And then we picked the curve, so we've lost the selection for the source object. So in Blender, to select okay, this one here, we're just going to delete the ones that we don't like. There we go. It's or establish the randomization by using the operator again. We're going to select in Blender to select the objects underneath the mouse cursor. Press Alt, then right click. It may be different for you because I'm using right click as the select, but if you're using left click at the select, I think it will be Alt left click. But for me, it's Alt right click, and this shows you the objects underneath the mouse cursor. So I know that the cylinder is our first object. I'm going to select that. X-ray mode, and we still have this faces selected. So let's layer some more details on this one. Um, I'm going to fix this one also. This flange here or not. I guess it looks okay. Okay, so random cells and pull. This just creates. This is random cells is probably my favorite operator to disrupt the profile or the shape or the outline of the model to create this little spiky extrusion, especially with spaceships. And we can toggle off use mirror or probably just leave it out. It's going to be smaller depending on your it's going to be slower depending on your topology when you disable the use mirror because then it's going to use the entire mesh, whereas with use mirror it's just going to use the it's lighter because it's using the mirrored side of the mesh only, and it's disregarding the geometry which is provided by the mirror modifier. Okay, and little spikes, 200. Nope, just 100, or probably just 50. Okay, and oops, I let go again. Then the wires. The wires, we're going to use random cables, and then we're going to use curve, and we're going to wiggle to create those the illusion of the wires from the shorts that I showed you. Maybe I have the wiggle here, offset curve, wiggle curve. There we go. And then also randomize the width of the or the ranges of the wires. In this operator, it is called bevel. It's kind of confusing. May want to reorganize the names later or in the next update. Okay, so let's try to use not to use mirror and increase the number of the cables 300. So obviously be careful with the number because this might create a slowdown. I mean, create a lagging effect, of course, for anything 3D. If you use a higher number, eventually it will slow down your system. I'm looking for the offset. Offset, yeah, there we go. Can we offset negatively? Yes. We're going to offset towards the mesh, not out towards the inside. So this is the wire. This kind of goes in. If you goes in and out of the mesh, if you study the short, it's basically the same effect that I did. Going to select all these faces and create more details. Let's see, 40, and then increase the yeah, There we go. And then we're going to fix this one, but basically create more detail here. So I'm using the pre-select add-on. Oops. You don't, since you don't have it yet, use the Alt key event. Alt click. It's present for all operators. You can control the sharpness threshold using the in the settings here. Okay. To deselect this area here and try the random panels. Excuse me. Play around with the random seed. Don't worry about making a mistake. If you don't like any of the part, you can just delete it and reuse the operators. I think I'll go for this one. I saw it the last time and I think that will be good. Yes, this one. You can see the banding because we've used this geometry here, and then we basically added another subdivision from that. So now the subdivision banding is already showing, but we can get rid of it using another operator that is added from the last update for the add-on. You can see the advantage of random shading. You can see that this part here looks like a tube or a pipe, whereas it is essentially just a angular part of the geometry. You can randomize the shading. Yeah, I'll go for that one. And let's get rid of the banding using the smooth sharp. There we go. All right. Now it's time to shade this. You can probably add, probably not. Before I turn this into a curve, I can, whoa, that's a lot of geometry. It's actually a lot of, this is what's inside the wiring. Okay, Shift G, selecting one of the curves, Shift G. If you turn this into a mesh, you no longer have the opportunity to use the flanges and couplings operator because it only works on curved objects. Okay, so only turn this into a mesh when you really finalize the design. Shift G, selecting all curve type, and then either use convert to mesh or in ice tools apply actually ice tools. What? Wow. Creative flow, apply mesh, and they're all now mesh type objects. And selecting all mesh type objects, Shift G type. So this works based on the type of object that is the active selection. So right now the active object is a mesh type. So when I use the type selection here or type option, it will select all the other meshes in the scene. Shift Q and random color, no saturation value. Limit is island. For something this high of a resolution, do not use the sharp, it will freeze Blender. That is only for low to mid res objects. And for something like this, which has a lot of resolution, do not use it. For this, only object. Okay, now we're ready to read this. I might just use the let me just add some more details here. Okay, is that giving me anything? Going to use uniform depth and decrease this or make it smaller. Decrease. I'm reminded of the decrease me there meme. Okay, this one. And going to append the. I was thinking of appending the materials from the old blend file, but I'm just going to show you how I made the shaders from the start using the append materials operator. And apply the. So it appended 7 materials to the scene, so I'm going to use Airflow Metal. And I'm still going to edit this. This is the result. So we're going to change a few things. Remove this and add the vertex color. We added later using random vertex color. For this menu to show up, you have to have Node Wrangler turned on, and you can just download it in the add-on preferences. It's free and it's part of Blender. It's attribute, and we're going to control the intensity of the vertex color using a mix color node, using overlay. Set this to 1, and then you can use the color B input to control the intensity of the vertex color. The advantage of this using compared to using color ramp is that you can use saturated colors, whereas with color ramp it overlaps the colors that you have currently in the mesh. Okay, so the lights. This turned out good. I thought it would be uglier or not look good. Okay, going to select another HDRI. This already looks good. Okay. For the, I'm going to select the lights that you saw from the short is from the original cylinder. I basically just used emission for this. And let the light pass through the gaps between the randomized meshes. Hopefully there's a gap. There was a lot of gap from the old model, but I don't think we have gaps. And we didn't. I don't have. I should have. Probably should have used the margin, but we can create the lights in other ways. Okay. For vertex color, we can use for one manually assigning vertex color. We can use creative flow. There we go. It's saturated. Okay. And we can repeat that on other parts of the mesh. Where's the real geometry side? Okay, this one. Set, replace, since we're the colors have already been set and we're just using the old settings. Okay. It's creating an arrow and selecting these faces. Set and replace. Selecting the all the pipe objects, and I'm probably going to use a single vertex color for them all. Cables. Oh, forgot the okay. I'm going to the grudge nodes and fix the scales and the settings. So one, break them up. Increase. I'm going to increase the noise scale, and then I'm going to break them up by adjusting the min max values here, and probably just use one for the strength. Cavity. Let's try peaks. Okay, it's too much. Let's use a less saturated color. Copy this to this. Control C, Control V, and let's see the effect of the quick dirt. I'm going to increase this to something like 3. And so with 0, for some objects, the using 0 offset or lower offset might look like the texture is radial, or it's kind of being sucked into a certain point, or uh, kind of expanding like this. So to negate that effect, you have to increase the offset. Give them a more even distribution to the mesh. Okay. Now we need now we just need the lights, and going to select this and use this icon here, or in creative flow with the material selected, and the object selected, you can duplicate the material. Let's just use this. So it basically created a unique material uh, for this object, which is a copy of the airflow metal. And we can change its settings without affecting the other objects, which uses the original copy of the material. So right now, we can play around with the uh, procedural settings of the materials. So emission, let's increase this to 50. You can already see a bunch of lights turning on. 0.06, the inner scale to increase the number of the lights, and offset to randomize their position. Change the color here. And we're going to use ambient occlusion to create more light effects. Ambient occlusion has a lot of uses for procedural texturing. I suggest you experiment with this a lot, because you can also create like part of the cavity mask is we're using ambient occlusion. You can basically create like rust effects on the just the sharp sides of your model or areas of your model. That makes sense. Okay, so color ramp to control the ambient occlusion. Okay, and we're going to adjust this, and we can set the color here, and only local, so it only affects itself and not the other inside. Or we can just play around with the with the settings. We can break this apart. So I often break it apart using the displacement texture, but since we can't, there's a lot of uh, conditions using J displacement. I'm just going to use something like checkers to break this. Actually, let's move this here to break the light that is caused by the ambient occlusion. Set this to multiply, and I'm going to use. Let's try checkers at first, and color a vector UV objects. Set this to pure black, and let's see. So that's how it looks like. Well, let's reduce the intensity of the light, something like 5. There we go. And we're going to introduce multicolors, or at least a few colors for the lights here. So, uh, how do we do it? Uh, Set this to white and put it here. And use another checker texture here, and set this to color. Where are you, color? Color. Set this to orange and set the other one to blue. So I'm not sure if this will work just yet. There we go. Just change the scale because it's the same scale as before. For from the first checker texture, it's the same scale. So the blue is actually being hidden by the black here. So let's change the scale to something like 4. So we now have, so what's the complementary, or what is the, oh, yeah, that's the complementary color for the orange. You can try green, just blue. Okay, so we have the that effect. So this is called procedural shading or texturing. I'm going to go to cylinder and change this to something more saturated, like the video. So the video also has this that tube, the torus here. I guess we can create it. Let's try to do it. That was actually like a, I didn't know how what to do with the with that geometry, so I just added that kind of effect. So 64 pages segments, 24 for this one. Okay. Alt S, you can shrink and flatten. Using Alt S. Okay. Bring it up here. So we'll kind of like, there we go. We're trying to copy the shorts that I did. Okay, so we're going to set the origin of this in the 3D cursor so we can mirror it, and the mirror will be aligned to the other objects. So origin to 3D cursor, and this side here is the real geometry, X, Y, Z, and shadow smooth. Click on these edges. AutoCAD. Oops, bevel. Okay, and what I just did is add the airflow glass cylinder. So the shorts model is or have more lights on this area. Actually, can't scale it properly anymore, but let's just try make the design work with the model. There we go. This is the sci-fi engine from the shorts recreated. It's not exactly the same look, but that is the same workflow that I use. So the lights from the short emanated from the source mesh, which in this case the primary source mesh was the cylinder. Fortunately, the middle geometry did not have enough overlap margins for it to show the lights from the cylinder. Okay, so I think we can. Where's the checkers? Make this smaller or larger, or just go with more red. Now all you have to do for this is lighting. You already have a awesome model. All you need is lighting for this one to work. Fortunately, my lighting skills is limited to HDRI, so Yeah, this looks good. So you can see that it's somewhat believable, especially with if you render this in the background. And if you have any overpaid skills, then you can, of course, just paint over some of the less convincing areas of the model. This looks good too. This lighting. Yeah. So this is it for the sci-fi engine, and we've successfully recreated this. The original model was created a lot faster because I wasn't really explaining stuff. So the original model was, I think, created modeled something like uh, 10 to 15 minutes. Then the shading is somewhere around that time as well. I might say that uh, the shading and the rendering and the lighting will probably uh, you'll spend a whole lot of time with the compared to modeling and all that stuff. Okay, so yeah, this is the sci-fi engine recreated, and I hope you learned something from this video. And we're going to end it here. If you have any questions, use the comment section or the links in the description. Subscribe and hit notify. Um, Thank you for watching and have a nice day.